But what is high performance and who is a high performer and how do you get there? Well, I've spent 19 years researching and working and coaching people through this topic because I just feel like, isn't that what we all want? You know, we all want to become our best at whatever we're doing, and we don't want to become our best over a short period of time. You know, I don't think many people are looking for peak performance. You know, teach me to be good, real good, and then of course what's at the bottom or the next part of every peak? A valley, a drop. It's like we want heightened and sustained performance and potential in our life. We want it to be heightened, we want to sustain it. That's what we call high performance. As a sort of textbook definition, we could say it means in our personal lives, it means succeeding and excelling over the long term above standard norms. That means we do better than we usually would for a long period of time. We maintain our potential, we maintain our success, we maintain the energy, the vibe, the flow, the zone, whatever you call it. Right? A lot of athletes would say, you know, I had a season where I was really in the zone. What they meant was they hit high performance that season. You know, that was a season when they were excelling beyond what they normally did, and they maintained it. And those times in our lives are amazing, right? I mean, have you ever had a time at work when you really hit your stride, where you really hit high performance? It seems like you were being more productive than you usually were, more productive than even your teammates or maybe even your supervisor were. You were like in the flow, you were on for a period of time. I don't mean just a day or a week. I mean, you are really on it for a couple of months or maybe even a year or two. That's when you hit high performance. My quest has been to figure out, well, what happened in that year or two for you? Or what happened in that season for the athlete so they can grasp it again, so they can get it back? My whole career is ultimately about figuring that out. I mean, if you read all my books, it's always trying to figure out how do we draw from ourselves the greatest amount of energy, engagement, enthusiasm we can so we can experience what we call the charged life. And I feel like if we experience the charged life enough, that's when we hit high performance in all areas of our life. The first habit of high performance is to seek clarity consistently. High performers are just asking themselves questions more often about who they want to be, how they want to interact with other people, what's important to focus on now, what would they find meaningful, what emotional qualities do they want to experience in their life. And because they're consistently asking those questions, they're getting better results than others. But you and I both know sometimes having clarity is hard. What's the right next decision for you and your family? If you have two good opportunities, which one do you choose? That's the topic of the chapter on clarity in my book. The second big habit for high performers is to generate energy. High performers do have greater levels of mental focus and stamina, greater positive range of emotions, and greater physical vitality and health. But how do they get that? Why is it that high performers don't burn out? You'll find that on the chapter of generating energy. The third habit of high performance is to raise performance necessity. In other words, they're getting themselves in the zone, but they're doing it in a specific way, using very specific sort of mental ninjutsu. And I'm going to teach you how to do that. The fourth habit of high performance is to increase productivity, something I know you already know you need to do, but we struggle with. You get distracted, you forget what to focus on, you feel like you're not being as effective as you can, you're finishing the week with so many things that you didn't get done. Why? It's not because you're lazy, it's not because you're not a hard worker, and it's not because you're not smart. It's because high performers identified their primary field of interest. And then in that primary field of interest, they found what is most relevant or different for them to focus on, and then they give 60% of their week to that PQO, creating prolific quality output. I'll teach you how to do that in the productivity chapter of my new book, High Performance Habits. The fifth big habit is to develop influence. How many people do you know who are passionate, who practice a lot and prepare a lot and who persevere, but they're not breaking through because they can't influence other people to believe in them, buy from them, support them, invest in them, champion on their way. They don't know how to lead others even if they're a good individual contributor, so they never rise to the top. High performers figured out how to develop influence, and I break down their practices for doing that with other people in the chapter on influence. And the last high performance habit is to demonstrate courage. High performers speak their truth more often, meaning they share what they think, feel, need, desire, dream of, want, need help with more than other people. They're great leaders who are living courageous lives. Is it possible for all of us to become high performers? The answer is yes. Are high performers born or made? They're conditioned. They're created by habit. In each of these areas, even if they didn't know it, each of these areas. I've worked with a lot of people, like I mentioned, even major celebrities or music stars. They might not have ever even thought consciously about clarity, energy, courage, productivity, and influence. But you look at their lives, and those elements are there, and they're sharpened, and they're honed. They're sharpened, they're honed because they've focused on their life. They're mastering their mind, their emotions, their schedule. They focus on the discipline of creating real knowledge, skills, talent, abilities, and they've done it longer than anyone else. And so those areas, they got sharpened, even if just by luck and habit.
What is the one change people could make in their lives that would help them have the biggest impact?
The one change.
Yeah, what could they do or stop doing that would allow them to have, because so many people that watch this show, if you ask them what they want to do with their lives, they're going to say, I want to help people or I want to have impact.
Yeah.
But many of them will fail to have the impact they want to have because they aren't doing XYZ, or they should start doing XYZ.
I have two answers, but you're going to like them because they're totally in alignment. This is one reason we're brothers. First one, it has to be a mindset shift specific one, a very specific one that's everyone's struggling with right now, which is really giving yourself permission to have the ambitions you have. Most people are half-hearted, half interested, half engaged in their actual dream and actual ambition because they either fear it or they feel insecure or incapable. And teaching people, I literally just had this conversation with one of the most successful people in literally the world, in the top 0.0001% category of revenue, has not fully expressed and owned their ambition. Instead, people apologize for their ambition, hide their ambition. You have to learn to own your ambition, speak of the ambition, chase the ambition, drive the ambition, and lead the ambition. It is a full both allowance, back to the words, allowance of the ambition and an active generation of that ambition. The further you are from your ambitions, the more miserable you are. And most people don't even look at their goals every day. So no wonder we have a world that says, I'm disconnected. It's like, no, wake up. Like I ask people all the time, did you look at your goals today? That's literally personal development 101 is have goals, look at them. Most people do not do that. I want you to not goals. I want you to deeply visualize, feel, sense, and talk about your ambitions way more. Like I love that about you. You're like, I'm gonna build the friggin' Disney of this nonsense. And everybody around you knows it. You know how rare that is? It's one reason I love you. People who are scared to communicate about their ambitions are cheating themselves in the world from supporting them. I coached an Olympian. I love this. It's in High Performance Habits. I wrote really briefly about it. But she had won several world records and world championships, but never a medal. And this was a big goal for her. And then she did, and I was working with her. And then afterwards, we were having this conversation. I said, what made the difference? She says, you know what? One day, it wasn't training. It wasn't nutrition. It wasn't diet. It wasn't everything we talk about. She goes, one day, I just started shouting from the rooftops that I wanted to win a gold medal. I started telling everybody around me. And she had this great say. She says, when you shout from the rooftop what you want, two things happen. One, the village idiots come out and judge you. All the village idiots. She says, but also the village leaders come out and go, see this. Let's set this person up. She said, all of a sudden, the right coaches, the right dietitians, the right former gold medalists, the right teammates started came out, and all of a sudden she had a community who were galvanizing behind this vision and ambition she had that she'd never achieved, even though nothing changed in her physical body. It was like she communicated the ambition, the tribe arrived, the goal was achieved. Complete game changer. So allowing the ambition, shouting from the rooftop, that's the mindset. That is a behavior change that takes real personal power, real courage, real vulnerability, whatever you want to call it, but most people don't do it. That's number one. Number two, you have to have daily intention and habit tracking.
You can't leave your personal development to randomness. And what most people do, they leave their personal growth to randomness, and so they're always in the land of mediocrity. You have to have that morning routine and that evening routine of evaluating where you are and where you want to go and asking the hard questions of what is it about me that's not moving forward? What is it about me that I need to accept, love, care for, take care of, do a better job with? How do I treat other people so I can get ahead faster? What do I need to focus on? If you don't do that on a daily basis, you're going through the motions. And even if you're successful, imagine how much more successful you would be if you were way more intentional and you actually tracked your habits. This is why we developed the High Performance Planner, because I wanted it. I was like, I know how easy it is to go through a day, you hustle all day, and you crash at the end of the day. I know the 100-hour work weeks. I know how that feels. I know what that's about. But if you're doing all of that and you're not aware, that leads to a nightmare. That leads to you take the wrong path and you're hustling down the wrong path. You lean the ladder against the wrong building. You do the wrong thing. The awareness on the daily is something people need to build into a routine and physicalize, like write, not a note on your phone, a journal, workbook, planner, something that you actually connect pen to paper, you think through. And if we can get you ambition, clarified ambition, speak the ambition, own the ambition, and you're actually intentional in tracking each day, you win this game.
How do you actually audit yourself? How do you hold yourself accountable?
Yeah.
What are the standards by which you're measuring yourself? Which that alone I think is important.
Yeah.
And that's something that I feel like if I were going to put my finger on a high performance habit, I would say for sure my ability to look nakedly at how I'm performing, like almost dispassionately.
Me too.
I'm not beating myself up.
Yep.
I'm not celebrating I'm just saying like either it's working
Objectively.
or it's not.
Yeah.
So how do you do that?
Well, in spirituality, it's just called being the observer. So you're observing your life dispassionately from a place of mindfulness and understanding where the judgment isn't there that's negative. And so that's a huge part of it. Because a lot of people, the reason they hate self-audits and they hate self-evaluation because it feels bad, but they're letting it feel bad. Like instead, it's like, how do I perceive this and think through instead what my real intention should be? So how do I do it? And here's how I'd recommend others do it. First, I have my high performance planner, which literally details out. But if you don't have the high performance planner, here's a simple thing to do. 3 things I want you to do every day. First, I want you to write 10 prompts for the morning for yourself. 10 prompts. Those prompts for you might say, how can I be a great mother today? How can I show appreciation to someone on my team today? It might say, how do I care for my health today? It might say, 3 words I want to keep in mind all day. You know, the message I have for myself today is this. The most difficult thing I'm going to face today would be this, and the best way my best self could overcome it is this. 2 big long-term projects to keep in mind are this, right? Those, like, write down 10 prompts. So the high performance planner begins in the morning. There's the 10 prompts that we know correlate with long-term success that we've measured. There they are. So I fill that out every morning. Second thing I want you to do, at the end of the night, 10 more prompts. What did I learn about myself today? What did I learn about other people today? Did I demonstrate my best today? Where did I not? Where did I get stuck? Where did I get frustrated? What negative thought did I have today that I don't need to have anymore? How did I treat people today? Did I move as swiftly towards my goals today? That type of thing. But the other piece about it is at night, I do the scorecard. So for me, it's the 6 habits of high performance now: clarity, energy, necessity, productivity, influence, and courage. And so there's the word clarity, and it says, was I very clear about exactly what I need to do today to move forward? Score 1 to 5. And so what you got to do, the third thing I want to do, build your scorecard for the end of the night. And your scorecard might say dad. Your scorecard might say leader. Your scorecard might say specific. But what I've made it is habit driven. So it's generate energy. Did I generate the energy I needed today to deliver my best? Productivity. Did I avoid distraction today and only focus on the needle moving activities?
High performers do not report working on their strengths any more than regular people. Mm-hmm. So that's not what gives them the edge. One of the chapters opens up with this guy who wrote this email, really highly successful guy. And he wrote this email to me, says, and I'd put him through all this. I put him through StrengthsFinder, the Berkman, the Colby, the Myers-Briggs, put him through everything. This is one of my first coaching clients ever. I knew everything about him. We knew all his background. We did all the homework. Had his peer review, his 360 assessments from work. And then I watched him fail for 2 years. And he wrote me this email and he said, Brendon, stop telling me like what successful people are like, because we know my strengths. I'm not getting ahead, and start telling me what they do. And that's what this book became about. It's like, what do you need to do? Because in this email, he wrote this, which is where that finding came from. He said, this was so good. Listen to this line. He said, as a leader, I have to be honest with myself that my mission and vision should never be made to bow down to my limited human strengths. I should have to rise up to my mission or vision. The strengths aren't the relevant thing. The question is, what is necessary for me to develop into to reach that mission? It's like, your strengths are great. And it's like, yes, of course do your strengths. But that's kind of like, what I tell people is like, let's imagine you have a bear, and that bear wants to go on top of this cliff over here, and it's never been on the cliff, and it wants to get that new honey up there, right? Telling the bear to focus on its strengths, to go somewhere it's never gone before and do something it's never done before is stupid. It's like saying, hey, you know what? Just try being more of a bear.
Right.
If you say, Brendon, I got this big new vision. I just say, just try being more of Lewis. I mean, it's at a spiritual level that feels good, but you and I both know you're going to have to develop far beyond your comfort zones. And strengths are typically comfort zones. We got to overcome that and go to the next level.
And develop new skills and overcome certain fears and all these other things that are going to help us get to the next level. Is that right? Or?
Yeah. The whole conversation of beyond the comfort zone really requires us to go beyond our strengths. It really requires us.
That is our comfort zone.
That is our comfort zone.
What we already know, what we're good at.
And the problem with all the StrengthsFinder and all of the strengths-based movement is the assumption, and they're all written academically this way, based on what are called innate strengths. And innate strength is the assumption that you had that from birth, and that those innate strengths are what you focus on. And I'm like, well, if you had it at birth, you probably had it when you were 15 years old too. So if it's innate, you had it at 15. Are the strengths you had at 15 sufficient to serve you at 50? Hell no. You need to develop beyond what's innate and go to a whole other level. And so I take on strengths in the book in that way, but I also say it almost doesn't matter, because a lot of people have strengths and they suck at work because they're not doing these habits.
Invest in yourself and grow daily by subscribing to Driven.